very free to use a lot of different composition strategies in my work, and they differ a lot depending on the creation. Of course, there is always a mathematical side in some of them. For example, in Rule of Three and The Dog Days Are Over, I really like to work with counts because it demands a lot of focus and concentration from the dancers, and I think that is always a very interesting and beautiful and real state that I'm looking for with my dancers. So it's not that, I use it mainly as a tool, I would say. It's not always, it's never an ambition or a goal in itself. It's always a tool to get a certain performative state with my performers. And in other composition strategies, I draw a lot. So if I work with 8 dancers, I have 8 dots on a blank page, and I see what different constellation I can make, and if it's 3, then it's 3. In case, again, of Rule of Three. But on the other hand, I think another strategy which I use a lot is limitation. And that can be limitation in space, like in Sweat Baby Sweat. Actually, there is no, it's very limited in space. They're always, the two of them are always together, and they travel together very slowly, so it's a very clear and simple composition. What more? Yes, what I like to work a lot, also to differentiate a lot with is depending again on the piece, like I could divide them in 2, or I make one tableau which slowly unfolds and changes. Or I go really for the ruptures, which is the case for my solo or to the attempt, or for Rule of Three, in which actually I try to have a lot of different strategies, a lot of different languages melted together, some very conservative languages, and some I try to think out of the box or combine things so a new thing emerges. I think what makes the movement interesting in The Dog Days Are Over is the fact that it's repeated a lot, which brings you in a certain state as a spectator and as a performer as well. There is born a physical empathy with the audience, I think. They start to bounce as well in their seats in Dog Days. I think there is a difference between the beginning step, which is just a simple forward-backwards jump, which I think is so basic and so repetitive that it really gets this trance thing which I'm talking about. I think the other movements, I think they don't need to be interesting at all. Because it's the composition again, or the way how complicated this composition is, that brings this focus and the concentration to the dancer, and they get lost in wanting to do it well, and that's what I'm interested for. So the movement, I tell them what needs to be is that it needs to be precise and just, so it's clear and readable. But there's a lot of movements in Dog Days Are Over which I don't like, or which I would never use in a piece because they are not interesting, or but again, what makes it interesting? For me, it's more the execution that makes it interesting than the movement in itself. From the dullest, most boring movement, you can make something very beautiful if you are convinced of it, and if you do it with, if you do it full on. And sometimes it's very intuitive, because I do ask my dancers to create a lot of material. They have to come up with a lot of material themselves. And it's very intuitive when I see something which I like, which I feel fits their body, which doesn't necessarily fit somebody else's body. But then we insist with that movement, and sometimes then it's nice to see the struggle of another person trying to get there. So it's always about the execution and never about the movement itself. I think I'm working now for 10 years, let's say, and things have changed in these 10 years. And I remember that in the beginning I was really against virtuosity. And then I think within these 10 years I started to search what can virtuosity be, because this execution is important of the movement, so how virtuose can a simple movement become? But to get back to the question, yeah, I think I'm born in the 80s. I've grown up with a lot of information, which is very reachable. Through YouTube, you can see a lot of dance from ages ago, or just recent work. There's a lot to pick and to choose and to do your thing with. I like this idea of being a DJ and yeah, making covers or mixing and matching, and not say this language is wrong or is not for this era or is. No, I think, for example, with Rule of Three, I really wanted to go in very dramatic, dance, theatrical stuff. While 5 years ago I would stay far away from it, but now it was necessary and it was needed, and then I'm happy that I don't feel the fear anymore to attack these styles and make them mine. And for me, in a way, if I think back about the base of this question about abstraction and emotion and how these two can correlate, I still, like one of the first works I saw was Phase by Martens, the Cavesmaker, which is such an abstract work, but which had such an emotional impact on me. So, I mean, I think it's for her, it's also there, although she's really abstract and architectural and stuff, but there is always such an emotional under layer that I think it also counts. It's not only counting for me, it's more aware, but maybe I use it a little bit more in the face or something.